First of all, yeah, I always had a thing for Jaden Animations' avatar. I've never kept that fact hidden. I even asked her out on a date at the end of my first Daft Pina video, and then she immediately uploaded a video saying that she was asexual.
Why is his character built like a bowling pin? So in my last video when I was talking about the stuff with Birdie, I had briefly touched on the stuff with Just a Robot, where after his DMs with Cyne Bear were leaked, this lead-huffing lunatic's degeneracy was on full display. Also, I just realized I sound like I'm spitting on the mic. However, right before the video was uploaded, Jar had uploaded his own response video, which let's just say could have gone better, where he touched on the stuff with Cyne Bear, some other allegations that are levied against him, and some stuff that I never even heard of. So anyway, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button before I smash your mom, and also make sure to join my Discord server so it doesn't die. It even has a cheese channel, why would you want to miss out? Anyway, I'll recap what he did very briefly since I did kind of talk about it in my last video. Anyway, this all started when Birdie decided to commit friendly fire and call out another groomer, who was his roommate, Cyne Bear, who as well groomed a minor, and Jar, being the virtual Batman he is, decided to defend her, using arguments that would make Sherlock cry, like saying it wasn't technically grooming if you do some mental gymnastics and go off some technicalities, since they didn't share inappropriate pictures of each other even though they were having sexual conversations. And he also did an interview with Cyne Bear which would end up getting leaked. Actually, I'm not sure whether it got leaked or he uploaded it, I don't remember. Wow, aren't I such a master of Minecraft? But speaking of things getting leaked, Cyne Bear would leak their DMs as well, though I'm not sure why you'd want to backstab the only person who snorts enough of their own piss to defend you. And in these DMs were laughably awkward shit, such as the jokes he'd make when not getting a response, which feels like something that someone's creepy divorced uncle would make. But I can at least understand it a bit, since unlike the many other times he uses his autism as an excuse, I can actually understand this one. But then you remember that this was someone who was dealing with grooming allegations. Well, I say allegations in quotes because of the evidence and the fact that she blatantly admitted to it, though she did try to take that back and failed miserably. And with how casual and weird their conversations are to someone who had such serious allegations against them, and even having her talk to him to help him go to sleep, even though he has a girlfriend. And while I don't believe that he was cheating or even emotionally cheating, it's still pretty fucking sad and pathetic. And after all of this and more people were calling him out, those who have had experiences with him would come out with more stuff, such as his really weird interactions with women, which would probably make you face the end of a can of pepper spray. And it would also be exposed that he had less backbone than a jellyfish, most of his opinions on drama usually being what was popular, and since there were many times when people failed to cancel him, it would end up going to his head, making his ego more inflated than the goddamn economy. And he would come to see himself as some sort of vigilante, and instead of being careful with covering the truth, he would be desperate to be the one in the right, to feel better than everyone else. And combined with the fact that he thought he was untouchable, that seems to be why he jumped the gun with Cyne Bear. And in case his reputation wasn't bad enough, his response was even worse. First of all, the video starts with a description full of spelling mistakes like it was drawn by a dyslexic person. Because he is, which is a point I'll get into later. And he starts the video first talking about the Cyne Bear stuff, where he looks back on and regrets some things, like how he had initially compared it to the pyrocynical situation, and he had admitted that his interview with Cyne Bear was terrible, but at the same time doubling down that he believes that Cyne isn't a groomer, and he stated that he thinks that Birdie groomed Cyne into initially saying that she did do it, and like, do I even need to comment on that? It seems like every time he takes a step forward in this video, he takes two back, and him blaming his autism for believing the stupid things that Cyne said and handling this poorly in general is a terrible excuse. And speaking of his dyslexia, he says the reason that he didn't read all of the initial document and his research in general being poor is because of it. However, if this is literally his job, he should at the very least get someone to read over this stuff for him. That's like if a guy with Parkinson's signed up to be a surgeon and did literally nothing to help with it. This kind of stuff doesn't give you the excuse to half-ass your job, and he absolutely should have hired someone to help read and spell things for him, including the text at the beginning to make sure that it didn't look like it was spelled by a crackhead, since the last thing you want in a response video is to make it look sloppy and half-assed. He then moves on a bit to his thoughts on cancel culture and how he always thought he might get canceled eventually, showing a clip from his video where he talked about it, and not even to respond to any sort of criticism or whatever from that video, since he still holds the same points, and only really brought it up to say that it aged poorly, and implied that he predicted the Twitter mob coming after him or something, since he's one of those people that treat cancel culture as some sort sort of boogeyman that'll come after everyone, including you, your wife, and your kids, which is a point that to this day I still find completely brain dead. While yes, there have been cases where people have almost lost their careers over it, it's almost always because of actually serious things like false grooming allegations. And in the cases where it's a small group of people whining over something stupid on Twitter, it almost never amounts to anything unless you constantly respond to it like a certain parasocial Minecraft YouTuber. And people getting into hot water and having to respond to that kind of stuff and take accountability isn't some sort of new thing invented by cancel culture. It's as simple as taking accountability for stuff, and depending on what you did and how you respond, there will always be people who hate you for it. YouTubers almost never lose their career because of something they did that was mildly bad, and if you get actually canceled, it's usually for an actually good reason, such as a crime. So no, doing something slightly edgy or offensive isn't gonna get you shot. Then he explained how he talked to Cyne Bear and the so-called simping allegations, where he explained that the weird sexual jokes wasn't some way to get with Cyne Bear, where he shows multiple examples including having ship art of him in manga common, which is really weird for someone who claims that they're straight. And there's also that statement he made talking about kissing an Italian guy in his Cyne Bear video, since he has quite the habit of oversharing. And with the people talking about how women are freaked out by him, I guess it checks out, since talking about how you make weird and sexual jokes with literally everyone doesn't make you look any better and just makes you look like a creep. He then mentions the sleep calling, where he says that he doesn't just do it with Cyne Bear, and he does it with people to help with his insomnia at night. But like, again, you have a girlfriend. I'm not sure why you couldn't have just done that with his girlfriend instead of doing it with someone who shouldn't be trusted around a middle school. Then he talks about how he was obsessed with Jaden Animations' avatar, constantly simping and sexualizing her as if he's the next coming of Nux Taku, even mentioning how he asked her on a date at the end of one of his videos. Again, do I even need to comment? But then he touched on the time when he commissioned a 17-year-old to draw art of him essaying Jaden's avatar, because nothing screams healthy individual like someone commissioning art of them assaulting an avatar of a real person who clearly doesn't consent to any of this. And combined with the fact that Jaden has already had to deal with creepy people obsessing over her, and she's asexual and not okay with any of this being drawn of her, hearing him admit to this made my jaw drop harder than his sub count. But when he heard that the person was a minor, he decided to do what a responsible adult would do in that situation, and lowered the request to just Jaden lifting up her shirt. Truly an upstanding citizen if I've seen one. He then says that there's no evidence of him saying that in the call and he doesn't remember it, even though he literally shows the art on screen. Again, why the fuck do you need to show that? And then there's the next part, where he talks about the time where he sent weird fart fetish art to a minor and made other weird sexual comments with each other, where he says he eventually figured out their age and stopped after that, blaming his autism for not checking their age earlier. And once again, he fully shows the art on screen uncensored, which I will not show you so you don't have to bleach your eyes. I'm not sure what he was smoking to make him think that blaming his autism on this was a good idea. And then he goes over some other drama stuff I don't care about. So in a nutshell, he was supposed to make a video apologizing about how he handled the situation, and turned it into a bunch of other responses that somehow managed to make him look worse, as he continues to dig his grave, making more and more lobotomized decisions. Honestly, if it wasn't for his response video, I wouldn't have been aware of half of the things he's done, especially that Jaden Animation stuff. Like, seriously, what the fuck? And now that he's done this, everyone is continuing to trash on him, and it's likely his career won't be able to save itself.